Welcome to Assassin's Creed: The Complete Story. Today we're going to continue getting you ready for Assassin's Creed 4 by telling you the story of Haytham Kenway, Edward's son. This is your potential spoiler warning though. As of right now, we don't know where Assassin's Creed 4 is going to end, and therefore it may end where the book that we're about to explain begins. The book explains the end of Edward's life as the beginning of Haytham's life, so this may be a spoiler. This isn't new information though, as it's been around for over a year. But if you haven't read the book or done any research of your own, you have been warned. Also, if Assassin's Creed 4 gives us more information on Haytham that hasn't been revealed yet, we will make another video to cover it, so don't worry. This video contained parts that are only in a book, and therefore we don't have any real footage to match it, so enjoy wallpapers and gameplay from Haytham in Assassin's Creed 3. One last thing before we get started. What do you think of Haytham? Do you feel that he is just cursed with his fate and wanted more, or do you think that he is truly just a villain of Assassin's Creed 3? Maybe this video will help you decide. Haytham Kenway was born in 1725, where he lived in Queen Anne Square, London. His parents were Edward Kenway, famed pirate of the game Assassin's Creed 4, and Tessa Kenway. He also had a half-sister named Jenny Kenway. Edward's family did not know that he was an assassin, and at the young age of 6 years old, Haytham was trained in the ways of combat, with Edward handing down a sword at a young age, but it was due to this training that Haytham would live a very lonely life. He would spend most of his childhood alone and homeschooled by the old Mr. Faley. His life would continue like this until a mugger tried to steal a necklace from Tessa. The mugger would have almost gotten away if it wasn't for a man named Birch, who attempted to kill the man, though Edward would not allow it. Edward would then ask his son if the mugger should be allowed to go free or if he should have been slain. To which Haytham would respond, holding the sword that his father had trained him to use, that he would enact his revenge on the man. In response to this, Edward would take the sword away and put it out of Haytham's reach, only to be used with Edward's permission. Haytham's training with Edward would continue, with Edward teaching him to think for himself and dispute all others' opinions at all times. During this time, the man that saved the family earlier, Birch, would begin to court Haytham's stepsister, Jenny, though Jenny despised Birch. One day, Haytham heard an argument between Edward and Birch left angered by Edward, though Haytham did not know why. As he left, he turned to Haytham and said he tried to warn Edward. To protect his household, Edward would hire 2 British soldiers to guard the house. Then, on the fateful night of 1735, 5 mercenaries attacked the Kenway household, and while Edward stood his ground and killed one of them, he was slain by the overwhelming numbers. This was the first time that Haytham had to take a life. As he was defending his mother, he stabbed one of the assailants in the eye. During the fight though, Haytham was knocked over and was about to be finished by the attackers when Birch arrived, defending the family and saving Haytham. Regardless of the two working together to defeat the attackers though, the last of the men would kidnap Jenny and set the house on fire. After the funeral, Birch approached Haytham and handed him the sword his father gave him so long ago. Birch would then become Haytham's guardian and take Haytham to look for Jenny's kidnapper and hopefully get to the bottom of all of this. As they were journeying together, Haytham would learn that Birch was actually a Knights Templar and would begin his training as a Templar under Birch, while spending time investigating exactly what happened back at his house and tracking down his stepsister Jenny. As the years would go on, Haytham would eventually start to remember more about the night that he lost his father, thanks to some more information coming forward. And while he would dismiss the idea that Birch was a traitor, he would remember that Edward's personal valet, Jack Digweed, had been away during the attack. Birch would eventually introduce Haytham to Braddock, a fellow Templar in the Templar army, who was conducting the search for Jenny on behalf of Birch. Haytham and Braddock would follow up on the Digweed lead and discover that Digweed had been missing ever since that fateful night. They then discovered that Jenny had been sold to Turkish slavers, and Birch and Haytham searched for her location for the next 5 years. It was the War of the Austrian Succession in 1740 that would force them to place their efforts on hold, and because of that, they would purchase a chateau near France. It was here that Birch would continue to train Haytham in the ways of the Templars, and Haytham would find solace in the ethos of the Templar. Birch would begin to discuss his theories of the first civilization with Haytham, and explain what they were looking for were the artifacts of this civilization. Haytham was very skeptical of everything involving the first civilization though, as he did enjoy following his father's philosophy of questioning everything. Eventually, Haytham would find himself inducted into the Templar Order. In 1747, Haytham would assassinate a Templar traitor in an attempt to retrieve a journal that contained a coded research message about the first civilization for Birch. Upon returning the journal to Birch, Haytham was informed that his mother had passed on, and with that, he returned home for the funeral. It was here that Haytham found one of his nursemaids of the family had been in a relationship with Digweed, and through her, he finally got his investigation for Digweed back on track. Birch and Haytham tracked Digweed down to a cabin and rode straight to it. On the way to the cabin, they spotted soldiers headed for the same cabin, and Haytham noted that one of the men looked like one of the men that had kidnapped Jenny. Haytham pursued the man until he was able to tackle him, but before killing the man, Haytham got him to reveal some rather startling news. Edward was in fact an assassin in the Assassin Order, the sworn enemies of the Templar, and he had died for something in his possession. But the man died before Haytham could get any more information. As Haytham arrived at Digweed's cabin to find Birch there, he also found a dead Digweed. Birch explained that Digweed had passed from injuries inflicted by the soldiers that Haytham had stopped, but they discovered that the man that Haytham had tackled also worked for their fellow Templar, Braddock. Haytham rode to Braddock, the man who had supposedly been searching for Jenny all this time. Braddock didn't seem to care that the men who kidnapped Jenny had actually been in his employ this entire time. He told Haytham to go ahead and investigate his army, but asked Haytham to stay and help him fight the French while he did the investigation. Haytham would continue his investigation while aiding Braddock, but it was during this time of working so closely with Braddock that he noticed how brutal Braddock was being, killing men, women, and children in the name of war. During this time, he came no closer to learning Jenny's location, and the trail seemed to go cold again. In 1753, Haytham was ordered to kidnap a young rebel named Lucio, who was being protected by the assassins, specifically an assassin named Miko. Haytham got into a fight with Miko, which would force him to drop and lose the short sword his father had given him so long ago. He did manage to take Miko's assassin's blades though, and Miko would flee to fight another day. While upset that he had lost his short sword, Haytham would consider the assassin's blades a nice trade-off. Haytham would then deliver Lucio to Birch, and Birch would use Lucio as a hostage to blackmail Lucio's mother into decoding the journal for him. The decoded journal would speak of the artifact as being a key to a great temple. A year later, Haytham would attend the musical The Beggar's Opera and assassinate the current owner of the artifact, conveniently the assassin Miko. After delivering the artifact to Birch, Birch and Haytham would discover that the artifacts were tied to the New World. And with that, Haytham would set off for Boston as the Templar's Order representative. Once Haytham arrived in Boston, he effectively became the Grand Master of the Templar Order of the Colonies. His search for the temple would then begin, and the game Assassin's Creed 3 would also start. And our video will end here. Join us next time as we cover Haytham's participation in the Assassin's Creed 3 video game. Also, don't forget to go follow up on our Twitter, Facebook, and our Let's Play channel. We're actually doing quite a few Let's Plays now, and we'd love for you guys to come and join us and give your comments in the comment sections down below. Also, let us know in the comments below of this video what you think of Haytham. Do you think that he's just a troubled soul who had so much more that he was looking for, or do you think that he's just a true villain? Also, make sure you follow our comedy series, because one of everybody's favorite series was The Misadventures of Connor, and we intend on starting The Misadventures of Edward very soon. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you next time here at the Assassin's Creed Complete Story.